This video is about morphology. The definition of morphology in the Webster's Medical Dictionary is form and structure. Not form or structure. Form and structure.
So why don't you tell us what form is, if it is not structure?
Evolutionists attempt to try to get around the fact that if evolutionary change were to take place, it would relate to morphology.
No, stupid. Morphology, of course, is a result of evolution. But evolution does not always necessitate a change in morphology.
By putting forth all kinds of jargon about nylonase bacteria, which of course is not evidence of evolution, or about immunities, things like this, they're really ridiculous.
So the bacteria that can actually digest nylon was around at the time of Genesis? Noah's missus wore tights?
They do this because the fossil record of life does not convey that there has been morphological transition from one kind of living creature to another.
How can you possibly claim that? And stop picking your nose. So given your knowledge of evolution, what exactly would you demand to find in the fossil record if you wanted proof of evolution? The fossil record clearly shows a general change in morphology over geological time. Exactly what we would expect of evolution.
A great many, dozens upon dozens of the most prominent scientists, mostly evolutionist scientists, in this world.
Are there any other types of scientists?
Have stated in their own books that the fossil record of life does not show clear evidence of transition, that species appear abruptly and without predecessors.
This is where I can call you a filthy liar without fear of slander.
Now, when you quote an evolutionist scientist about this, an evolutionist will scream, quote mining, which is a ridiculous, childish rant.
Ark, who's talking?
If they think that's a quote mine, whatever that is, there's no such thing as a quote mine.
So, you don't know what quote mining is. Therefore, there is no such a thing. Now we know how you don't know what evolution is.
If they think quoting an evolutionist scientist somehow takes them out of context, well, then they should stop quoting their own scientists.
But we are not the ones quoting scientists out of context.
Stop believing what they say. If you don't believe what they say, then stop complaining when somebody else quotes them, if you don't, because you're going to claim you don't believe what they say. It's ridiculous.
Ah, so you genuinely don't have a clue as to what quote mining means. Check it out, Nephi, check it out.
You see, evolution contends that from a single cell, from molecules, yes, and they claim abiogenesis is not evolution either. It is.
It isn't. That's why they have different names. Evolution pertains to speciation. Abiogenesis does not.
From molecules evolved into a single-celled organism, and that single-celled organism evolved into the plethora of body plans, order, kingdom, phylum, genus, species of creatures that live in this world. That requires morphological change.
Wait for it.
To go from a bacteria to a human being within the evolution concept would require trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of morphological changes. Trillions.
In zillions upon zillions upon zillions upon zillions upon zillions of generations. Zillions. You see, I can pluck numbers out my arse too.
And yet, the fossils do not convey any morphological change.
And I can still call you a filthy liar without fear of slander. Morphological change is exactly what the fossil record tells us.
Now, when evolutionists look at, when they present what they claim are transitional forms, oftentimes they make the most absurd thing. They show an animal of one morphology and another of a completely different morphology and say, look, that one came from that one over time. It's insanity. It's ridiculous.
That's because a transitional fossil exhibits a mixture of traits from those of earlier established life forms and those which had yet to be established. It's all in the timeline, Neph. Timeline, your nemesis. And while you're at it, check out mud skippers.
But evolutionists attempt to argue around the fact that if evolution were true, it would be represented by morphological change. Because If you take one organism and you take another and claim this one has evolved and beget that one, but they look identical, how is any can it be said evolution has changed, has taken place?
Evolution can involve changing colour, pattern, muscle mass, etc. It does not have to involve changing anatomy every time.
Of course, we know that, dog varieties, species, breeds of dog don't represent evolution either. Of course, those were created by man, but they all have the same morphology, dog. Every dog has the same set of morphological features every other dog has. There is not one dog that has a morphological feature that all dogs do not have. Form and structure, not form or structure, form and structure are morphology.
I do wish you would tell us the difference between form and structure, but I've got the feeling that you can't. To keep this video shorter, I have left out about 5 minutes of Neph's video, whereby he claims winning a debate over an evolutionary biologist with a PhD. Yeah, I know. The biologist claims an increase in muscle mass in a population of damselflies over another population due to environmental pressures exhibits a change in morphology. Neph doesn't, as he thinks only a new muscle should count as a change in morphology. I disagree, because that increase in muscle mass will increase over many generations, causing other knock-on effects. But if you really demand a new feature that has been observed to evolve, then look no further than the cecal valve in the digestive tract of an isolated population of Italian wall lizards. Now, I'm not claiming speciation, but I am claiming a change in morphology. Also, the larger heads providing stronger jaws can be considered a morphological change, but the cecal valve nails it. Let's play idiot's advocate. We will go along with there being no change in morphology between all the dog breeds, but if dog variation is not morphology, then nor is dog variation with cats. Both have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 lungs, 1 nose, 4 legs, a tail, whiskers, 1 heart, and even 13 pairs of ribs. So you are going to tell me that this and this are morphologically the same, and more so than this and this. So Neph, what exactly are the morphological differences between cats and dogs? Hey, and while we're on the cat family, you would have us believe that all the species we see today came from just one pair, in just a couple of thousand years. Are all these members of the cat family morphologically the same? And let's not forget that the cheetah is a cat that cannot retract its claws. Hey Neph, just for fun, if you can't get your head around evolution causing morphological changes, then consider these morphological changes that occur within a single life. A caterpillar growing into a butterfly. Newt larvae that have gills which are replaced by lungs in the adult. And what about atavisms, such as on this dolphin? Or how about animals of the same kind that are morphologically different? The Sicilian salamander of the rainforest has no legs, unlike other salamanders. The slowworm is a lizard that has no legs, unlike other lizards. Sort of debunks the ludicrous idea that all creatures within a kind micro-evolved from a single pair of each kind, whatever kind is. And let's not forget the morphological differences between the sexes in the same species. And so, Neph, what exactly are your definitions of form and structure? Anyhow, I had a brief encounter with Neph regards morphology via a comment exchange on Corthew's video Mum Evolved. Take a look and treasure Neph's informed reply. You may need to pause. Needless to say, poor old Neph could not muster a reply. It speaks volumes. Perhaps this is the level of morphology that Neph can understand. Morphology, more like MoreFoology,